Hey guys, it's Strike Edits back with another DaVinci Resolve speed editor for Premiere Pro video. This is going to be the third video in my series, and it's going to be on multicam editing. I highly suggest you watch my last two videos. The first one is on my customized keyboard, and the second video is on banks, which are like layers. Both of those aren't essential, but this will make a lot more sense if you watch those. So I'm going to start out by showing you my new custom keyboard. I think this keyboard works a lot better than the default speed editor keyboard because I take a lot more advantage of the layers function, which is the banks, and I also customize the keycaps. When we go into CommandPost and I hit this upper left key, you'll see Command Z, which is undo. And my long press is Command Shift Z, which is redo. So if I hit undo, it's undo. If I long press, it's redo. So this whole upper area, I got keycaps from Etsy, and I'll put the links in the description. No affiliate or anything, it's just I found it on Etsy and I love them. For this tutorial, it's really important that you map J, K, and L to some keys. I like doing it right here. This is going to be G and H. G and H is the same as Q and W on most keyboards. That's just how I customize it in Premiere Pro. So throughout this video, if you go into the Premiere Pro keyboard settings, it's really important that you map specific keys to do some of the functionality I'm talking about, because a lot of this stuff is not on the default keyboard. Now, for example, with multicam, when I hit the 1 key, it's going to select camera 1, 2, 3. Notice it says the shortcut as I hold my mouse over it. And then when I hit Control, I mapped 1 through 9 to cut to the camera. So we've got select camera and cut camera, and I'll talk about those when we get to the multicam editing section. So you're going to want to map those keys. And then another really important key is going to be Shift 0, which is toggle multi-camera. That's going to be one of the most important buttons we use. So for multicam editing, this is what multicam looks like. I went online and found a website. These guys shared their video for us to use just to play around with. I'll put the link in the description. That'll also give them some credit. They're using 4 cameras for their video on Before You Accuse Me. So there's 4 cameras here. The first camera is going to be a wide shot. Cam 2 is the lead singer. Cam 3 is going to be the guitarist. And then cam 4 is sort of a roving camera. So to create multicams, you need more than 1 camera, and you need a good audio track. Sometimes the good audio track is recorded onto the camera, usually camera 1. But in this case, they had an external audio recorder for the music. What you're going to do is select all of these, right-click, and hit Create Multicam Source Sequence. And you'll have this pop up. Now you can synchronize by endpoints, timecode, and all that stuff. Generally speaking, most people on cheaper setups go with audio. So we're going to be synchronizing to the audio channels. Now, it says track 1, 2, and mix down. Sometimes people record the good audio on track 2 or maybe 2 different levels. In this case, I'm using track 1, but you might have to mix down or change the source if you're not hearing the audio correctly. So what this is going to do is this is going to analyze the audio, and it's going to sync up all the cameras for us. In this audio sequence settings, this is where I basically tell the sequence what I'm doing with the audio. I'm going to have the audio in what's called camera 1. I'm not going to be switching the audio from camera to camera because cam 1 is going to essentially be the music track there. And it's recorded in stereo. So I'm going to press OK. And what it does is it processes the clips and creates this new multicam clip. So I'm going to call this multicam good audio. This is going to be my multicam clip. Now, a little trick is if you hold Option and Command and double click, it opens up the multicam sequence into a new timeline. And that's going to show you what it did. So it's got 1, 2, 3, and 4 cameras. It automatically muted the cameras, and it's choosing the good audio track. Now, every once in a while, the good audio track will be on the wrong track. So So let's say if I add tracks, and I'm going to add one audio track. Right now I'm holding the shift key and I'm moving this down. So if your audio looks like this, see what's happening is it's muting everything but the camera audio, which you don't want. So in this case, what I usually do is I create a new track. I'm going to hit the option key and up and down, and that'll move everything up and down. So I'm selecting all, option, down. And now I'm going to take the good audio track, hold down shift so it locks it in place left to right, and then drag it up. Now it's correct. So that's how you fix it if you don't get the right audio track. All right, so now we're going to close this out. We're going to create a new sequence. I already made one called Multicam Sequence Unedited. I'm going to reveal that, and then we're going to call it V1. So you got an empty sequence open, and you can drag this multicam into it. I'm going to zoom out. When you play it, you're going to notice that you're not seeing any multicam right now. It's basically sort of like a nested sequence. So to fix this problem, we're going to have to turn on Multicam View. I mapped that to Shift 0. If you don't have that mode, you can map it to click it manually here. You just drag that down. If you don't have that on your keyboard, you're going to go to keyboard shortcuts. If I show you Shift 0, it's this toggle multicam. You're going to map that to some sort of key combination and save it under your keyboard. What I've done is I made this key right here. That's my insert key. So on this regular bank, that's my insert key. But when you long press that key, it's going to jump into Speed Editor Bank 3, Unit 1. So Bank 3 is going to be my multicam layer 3. If I'm in Bank 3, the key above Smart Insert on my keyboard, the append key, which is the escape key on the default keyboard, that's going to jump me back to Bank 1. Right now I'm in layer 3 because it's lit up. I hit that and it's back on cam 1. If I hold that, I'm going to go back to layer 3. And I know this is a complicated video, guys. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. You can see my banks video and I'll show you how you map banks. Bank 1, you need to map a key to go to Bank 3. This key, when I long press it, goes to Bank 3. So then when you go to Bank 3 here, I map the key above it to go back to Bank 1. Okay? Long press that key on the first bank to go to Bank 3, and then in Bank 3, press the key above it to go to Bank 1. You can map any key. These are the only keys I don't think you can switch banks with, so I would avoid these keys right here. But I like to use the key where it says clip under it. That's why when you look here, and it says clip, and then it says clip. Those are the only two keys on the keyboard that say clip. So I know that one of these clip keys is taking me to the third bank, and the other one's taking me back. Most of the magic happens right in this little area here. So I actually moved the keys from the default keyboard. You see it says 4, 5, 6, 1, 2. I don't like it reversed. I actually swapped them. So if you look at my Resolve keyboard here, I've got cam 1 through 4 on the first layer and cam 5 through 8 on the second layer. So this actually, even though it says cam 4 here, on my keyboard it's going to be cam 1 because that's where I moved that key to. And I did that by pulling the keycap off with a keycap puller and just pushing it back in. So 1 is going to be Control 1, which is going to be cut to camera. 2 is Control 2, which is cut to camera 2. And you'll notice the long press says 2. If I go back to cam 1, long press says 1. So this is going to be cut to camera. This is going to be switch to camera. I'll show you how to do that when we're actually editing. So we're in Bank 1. I'm going to long press that. We're in Bank 3. The LED is lit up. If I hit this, it's going to turn on this button here. This is the multicam view. We don't even need to see this, but I'll just drag it to the left now here. It's really small. And then drag that out. All right, so now this is our main multicam editing view. This tells you what camera you're on with the yellow, and you can manually click it. And that's actually going to choose our default camera on the right. What I first do is I usually choose a camera, usually the wide shot. So now I'm going to edit on the fly actually. So let me go back. Looks like, so there's the clapboard. Let's make sure everything's in sync. Yeah, they're in sync. You're going to go to the beginning of the song, which is right here. On my speed editor here, I have JKL. So this is how I'm going to play. So everything before this, I'm going to delete. I map trim in to ripple to start. So I'll hit the ripple to start. Now we're going to start. So we're in the wide shot. Now as it's playing, I'm going to hit cam 1, 2, 3, and 4 to switch these cameras. It's the same as clicking. So watch me. I'll play it. Let's say I want to go to cam 2. Cam 1. Cam 2. Cam 1. Cam 3. Cam 1. And press stop. It made all those cuts on the fly as I pressed the cameras because I mapped these to cut to camera 1 through 4. So now I'm playing it back. This is the playback monitor. That was a little late, I think. Okay, so the timing's a little off, but the cuts are there. Here I have a screenshot of the lower left of my screen. And you'll notice I have the JKL keys and the trim in, trim out, and roll keys. Trim in is start to playhead. Trim out is end to playhead, which is the Q and W keys on most default keyboards. Roll is going to be my trim mode. And then the lower left 2 keys and slip source and slip destination is going to be trim back 1 and trim forward 1. So those are going to be very important keys here. So what I'm actually going to do is edit by going into trim mode. And then this slips at 1 frame at a time. So this was a little late, so I'm going to move it back. I'm going to zoom in. So trim mode, back a couple frames, and then my play is my preview, the edit. That's a good edit. Okay, so we're going to exit trim mode. You might notice that it just switched back to layer 1. Because exiting trim mode was jumping me back to bank 1, when I was in bank 3 and I hit the exit trim mode button that I had mapped for bank 1, it didn't exit trim mode. It took me back to bank 1, and I didn't want that because then all the keys that I mapped for the multicam mode don't work, and I'd have to press smart insert to get back into multicam, and it just gets confusing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clear that, press select. I'm going to go to the mouse thing, and I'm going to use a left mouse click. So now we're going to try to trim this manually. So in the slip source and destination is 1 frame left and right. Let me show you what that looks like. That's trim left and that's trim right. Trim backward 1 and trim forward 1. So I move these and I press play. Okay, so to exit trim mode, I'm going to hold down the trim in button. Now I've exited trim mode. And I'm still on layer 3. This I feel like we should cut back to the master shot. So I'm going to click cam 1. It's going to cut to cam 1. Great. Now it's still in the wide shot. So let's say I want to switch this but not use a cut. If I put a cut point, see, it just put a cut. I'm going to hit undo. What you do is you want to switch this entire clip. If you hold cam 2, it'll switch it. I'll remind you here. That's select camera. Control is cut to camera. So we're actually selecting the camera and we're not cutting to camera. So now when we go back, all right, and I'll do the switch again. Maybe we want to cut to this guy right there instead of this shot. That's kind of a cool shot. So I'm going to switch to cam 3, not cut to cam 3. So I'm going to hold down the Cam 3 button. Now we've switched. So I'll go back. Okay, it's a little long. So again, I'm going to go into trim mode. You can do it here, or on my keyboard, you can hit the roll key. And then I'm going to hit this lower left button. That's 1 frame trim back. And I'm looking at the waveform. That's where I want to cut to that shot. Now I'll press play. And that's previewing it. Perfect cut. If you want to change the pre-roll, you go to settings, playback, and that changes the pre-roll. So if I only want 2 seconds, then when I press play around, it only goes 2 seconds back. Great. So now I'm going to exit trim mode, and that's this key long press. That's what I mapped it as. I'm going to press play. So take a look at yourself, came a little late. You can also just roll it back this way. Zooming out in the tour box. Let's go home and play. All right, so I'm pretty happy with that. So that's more or less how you do multicam. You're making sure that you have camera 1 through 8 mapped. You make sure you got this key mapped, the toggle multicam, make a custom shortcut and add it. And then make sure select camera 1 through 8, because that's how many keys I have right here. And then you have cut to mapped. And the final part of this video is going to show you how to use multicam when you're on layer 1. Because right now we're holding Smart Insert and it's taking us to bank 3 and we're doing all our multicam edits. Well, what if I'm in bank 1, which is my main bank, and I'm going to get there right now by hitting the append key. If I'm in bank 1, but I still want to do multicam editing, this key right there, if I want to toggle multicam on and off, I can't, because right now I'm just turning these layers on and off because I'm in bank 1. So what I did is I mapped slip source to temporarily take me to bank 3. So if I hold this key, now it's lit up. That's bank 3. And so now if I let go of it, I'm back in bank 1. So if I wanted to do a cut right here, I would hold this key and click on another camera. So let's say I want to go to camera 4. Now it added a cut, and I'm still holding this key. If I let go, now I'm back in my first layer, and this thing's toggling video on and off. It's not doing the layer 3 functions and keeping you in layer 3. And that's really important to know, because a lot of times you just want to jump into a mode like multicam and then be in your regular mode to do all your other editing. So I could hit this key and hit video all, and that's going to turn multicam on and off. See, that's being toggled on and off. And it's doing that because when I go to CommandPost and I go to this bottom left key, even though my main action is to trim 1 frame back, the long action is to go into bank 3. Most importantly, the release action is back to bank 1. If I took this off, then if I long press this key, I would be permanently in layer 3. Does that make sense? So if you long press it, you're in bank 3, and if you release it, you're in bank 1. I can also switch the angle here. I'm holding this key down. I'm in bank 1. This one's lit up. And then instead of clicking this once, which is going to cut, I'm going to hit undo. I'm going to hold that, and it's going to switch the camera angle. And now it just switched. But I'm still in my first layer, and all the keys that I mapped to that first layer are still working. So this bank thing it's a bit confusing. I mean, the hardest part for me to grasp when I first did this was that the banks are layers, but you can either go to that layer and start changing all the keys, or you can temporarily go to that layer, and then when you let go, you're off that layer. So to recap, once you're on bank 1, map whatever keys you want. Just make sure a couple of these keys toss you to another layer. You know, I use these 2 keys here, but you can use any key. I mean, I can make source timeline change from bank 1 to bank 2, and you could do all of this with just 2 banks. I actually have 4 banks, and my second bank is all my secondary functions that I couldn't fit on bank 1. And then bank 3 is exclusively my multicam. And bank 4 was another bank to change the jog wheel behavior. I didn't learn this overnight. I had to make a keyboard and then start editing and then press a key and realize that I wanted to change where that key was. It's just a lot of trial and error. But once you get it set up right, it's a much faster way to edit. And I hope you guys all enjoy. Good luck. Happy editing.